I don't know about you, Kelly, but it's hard to record right now, knowing that somewhere in England, a cabal of global elitists are feasting on the late Queen's corgis.
Bog Panda.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Bog Panda. I am Dr. Mike at Official Pagan on Everything. Joining me, as always,
Hi, everybody. This is Kelly at KELLYTHOL on Twitter and Instagram. And if you get a chance, maybe take a look and subscribe to the Bog Panda YouTube channel. Hit that notification bell. Maybe take a look at some of our videos, give them some likes or comments. Check out our merch. We greatly appreciate it. Helps us out a lot.
absolutely. I hope you like that I made it topical there in the beginning because we're
Absolutely.
about to time travel back 30 years to talk once again about Mortal Kombat, specifically about the 30th anniversary cabinet that I acquired from Arcade1UP. I've had a little bit of time with it now. Figured I'd share some of my thoughts, kind of get Kelly's impressions as somebody who's seen the videos and seen the rollout of it. There's a couple of big things that I want to touch on that I've seen some people complain about. The first one that I want to get out of the way first, what's your experience been like playing online with the at games systems?
So I have not done a lot of the at game stuff online. When I have done a little bit, it can be hit and miss in terms of connectivities. I sometimes wonder when doing that, is it my network? Because I am quasi hardwired. Use a whole house network thing to get down to the at games versus just a pure Wi-Fi connection. So that helps some. But it's always, there's so many points of failure. But by and large, it's not been bad, but occasionally it can get a little flaky.
Yeah, I mean, I've run into a little bit of slowdown with Mortal Kombat. I haven't. I do think some of the complaints that people have though are slightly overblown because I think this is a system that all of your complaints are kind of first world problems. So like minor slowdown when you're playing Mortal Kombat. One complaint that I've seen people make is like, "Oh, jump on," and I get stuck playing with somebody who's an expert level player, and I just lose every game. That's how it worked
Yeah.
in the arcade. Like you didn't know who the next person who was going to come up was. So, sometimes it's somebody you can easily take, and sometimes it can be somebody who just destroys you and the whole line of people behind you.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
Speaking as a person that got his ass handed to him 47 times in a row at a spawn point in Star Wars Battlefront, that happens.
Yeah, that does happen. So that's one thing I kind of wanted to get out of the way right away. I had a little bit of lag a couple of times, but it wasn't anything that's like game destroying for me. And as far as the skill level of the people you're playing against, that's what happens. Sometimes you get people who are equally matched to you. Sometimes they're not, one way or the other. So that's what happens. The other big complaint that I've seen is about the monitor. I really like the monitor that's on it. I haven't had any kind of issues. They talked about some viewing angle issues. For me, the viewing angle, you only really lose some viewing angle or get some distortion when you're pretty far off to the side of the machine, like too far off to be playing the game. So, is that a problem?
Yeah, and so this is in the setup for it. Is it 4-player setup or 2-player
Two
setup?
player.
Two.
Yeah.
So when you say off to the side, when you obviously if you're doing 2-player, you're both off to the side a little bit. That initial positioning is fine. You've got to like be pushing out pretty far to the
Yeah,
wings.
you got to walk over kind of to the side of the machine. So, like, if you and I were playing and somebody was standing a couple feet off to the side of us, they might not get a great viewing angle of the monitor. Is
Which
that
is not a surprise.
yeah? Is that big a deal? And this is where I feel like these complaint a lot of the complaints that I'm seeing, and they're pretty consistent. They're really first world problems. And listen, I'm guilty of that too, so I'm not judging anybody for that. But I have to, if I'm giving an honest review of it, these are not issues.
And we reviewed some monitors a while back, and hopefully there'll be a little link up there for you on the screen. You could go look at that video. That one boasted the fact that you could basically almost get to 180 degrees from the monitor and still get a good view. And what they showed, it was true. Actually, that was great. I just wonder how often that's the ideal playing position, period.
Right.
You know, so.
How often is that an issue
Yeah.
where you have to come into it? So, I mean, I don't have the other Mortal Kombat here anymore. That's moved on to a new home, so I can't really compare it to it. It does seem like the Legends has a slightly better angle. Like I can get a little further off to the side without losing so much of the image. But again, you're so far off to the side either way, you're no longer playing at that point. So is that an issue?
I don't think so.
So it's a very nitpicky thing. The sound is excellent. It has the downward firing speakers that are very similar to the At games and the Ninja Turtles, which is great because that was my biggest complaint with the original Mortal Kombat. There was one speaker that was built into the joystick panel, and it was extremely loud. So it was just kind of blasting up at your face. It was weird, and it was very, very loud. And there was just like a low and high setting, which is really just high and then distorting because it's so loud, were the real settings on there. So there's a really nice speakers in there. It is larger. It's more in line with like At games and the closer to 80% size. Not quite so much with width, but with height it is. It is noticeably taller than the other arcade cabinets. It is a similar build to the other Arcade1UPs, but it has that extra piece in there that they've introduced in some of the larger cabinets, like the big blue cabinet. So you have your riser and your standard, what I guess is like 4.5 foot, and then you would put it on the riser to give it the additional footage there. But there's another piece that attaches to the actual unit itself before you put it onto the riser that gives it another maybe like 4 to 6 inches, something along those lines. So it is taller. It's comparable to At games. I do have the At games mini, but that does seem to be height wise identical to the original At games because that was people's big complaint about that. They were calling it a mini. It's just narrower, not actually smaller in terms of height. So it is comparable to that. So think that height wise. The only other major complaint that I've seen from people is the control in some of the games. And I figured, you guys can't tell, I love this cabinet. So that's why I'm attacking all the negative stuff that I've seen first, just to kind of give you my feedback on that, because otherwise I have nothing but positive things to say. The other thing I've seen the complaint about is the controls. And we kind of touched on this on another episode where we're talking about game control. I never played Paperboy in an arcade. In the arcade, Paperboy had bike handles as a controller. I've seen so many people say it is impossible to play Paperboy using a joystick without, the only way to play is with the bike handles, and it's uncontrollable and unplayable broken game. I only ever played Paperboy at home, never used the bike handles for the controls. This is not an issue for me.
No.
Now, yes, you'd be missing out on the nostalgia of it, not having the bike handles on the front of it. But the game is completely playable and plays exactly like every port and sequel that came after Paperboy. And there are dozens of them. So it's the majority of Paperboy games that did not have the bike handle controls. So to me, there is no difference playing it. I can understand if somebody grew up playing in the arcade and then shunned every other Paperboy game after that. It's weird, but I could understand that if that's where you're coming from. The game is completely playable if you've ever played Paperboy on anything other than the arcade with the bike handle controls. And I've seen some other, minor things like that. Again, they all play fine. There's no game on here that's broken and unplayable that I've come across.
Yeah, and there are not a lot of games where the actual arcade setup is the only way. Now, it's always preferable, whether it's Battlezone or Paperboy or Tapper. The ones with a very unique, game specific setup, it's always better to play the arcade setup. But as you pointed out, all the anybody playing Paperboy on a console, they played it with a joystick. It can be done. But the only game and I'm sure that we'll like to have folks share in the comments other ones to prove me wrong here, but I'm going to kind of go out on a limb and say the only game that I know with great confidence you're totally hosed if you don't have the arcade specific controls is Tron. The Tron game, because particularly on when you're going for the kind of CPU with the thing spinning around, you've got a joystick with a trigger, so you're doing the kind of multiple moves, and you're kind of pulling it off, which on like an At Games Legend, that's some sort of combination of a spinner and buttons and the joystick, and it's not a thing. It's really hard. So, but other ones translate pretty well. Paperboy is ultimately pretty good, whether it's trackball controlled, spinner controlled, or joystick controlled. You could play Paperboy. My opinion.
Tapper is another one. Tapper is included in this set. Another one people complained about. Again, I had Tapper for home consoles, so I've only ever played it with a joystick. So this is exactly how I've always played it. So for me, again, I can understand you're missing out on some of the nostalgia, but the other side of that is this is a Mortal Kombat cabinet. The main selling point of this is 4 online Mortal Kombat games. It also includes all these other Midway classics as, bonus for it. And of course, you can hack these easily and add more games to them. There's a million videos online explaining that. Personally, I'm going to keep it the way that it is. I have an Arcade Legends. I have Super Console X in there. I don't need to do that with those. I want to keep these more or less stock. They all have multiple games on them anyway.
Yep.
So this is all just awesome bonus stuff for me.
Cool. So what's your favorite part of the cabinet?
Honestly, it's the look of it. So as excited as I was for Mortal Kombat 2, and as cool as it looks with Raiden on the side of it, the Mortal Kombat 1 cabinet, for me, if we're going strictly with nostalgia, is the one that I remember the most. So the look of the Mortal Kombat 1 cabinet is the coolest part of it to me. The Mortal Kombat games are great. It has both versions of Mortal Kombat 3. Some people did complain. Previous cabinet only included Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. Mortal Kombat 3 was rushed out in less than a year after Mortal Kombat 2. And it shows when you played it. It is visibly unfinished when you're playing Mortal Kombat 3. So a few months later, they rushed out an upgrade that fixed a lot of issues, but it actually removed a few things too that they just couldn't get right. So you are missing a couple of things in Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. So this includes both of them. So if you are a big Mortal Kombat 3 fan, and I like the game, I'm not knocking it, but especially now as an adult playing it, it is harder to not see that stuff. Like there's even in Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, there's one of the arenas that you're fighting in, you literally just walk off of the background at one point because it's just not finished. And that's the updated one. So there's a lot of issues with it. It is a clearly not finished game when you're playing it. So both of them are included though. But for me, Mortal Kombat 1 and 2 are always going to be the ones that I think of. This has an almost arcade perfect reproduction of the Mortal Kombat 1 cabinet. Even sort of the way that the marquee is cut and everything, it's more reminiscent because all the earlier Arcade1UP cabinets, even the 4-player ones, had kind of a standard cut to the sides of the cabinet. This is more reminiscent, boxier to the actual original Mortal Kombat. The one thing it is missing that people complained about, and this I do understand because of the nostalgia aspect of it, it does not have Johnny Cage on the side of it like the original did. Johnny Cage was played by Daniel Pacina, who also played a few of the other characters, including the ninja characters. He had a falling out with game creators. He felt like they should be paying him more after the success of the game. So he had a falling out with them and was replaced. So his image was later removed from the sides of the cabinets and things like that. So I do understand, but again, there's bitterness between him and the creator, so that wasn't going to happen.
Was there a sound that just occurred?
There was a loud noise outside.
Okay. It was very close to the wah wah.
But yeah, so Daniel Piscina is not on the side. It's just so the original image is these golden dragons, and then him like jumping in front of them. It's just the golden dragons. It looks great though. Everything looks great. The details are great. The marquee looks excellent. So there's really nothing to complain about. Again, all of the games play great. I'm sorry it doesn't have bike handle controls for those people that are mad about it. But again, for me personally, I never played that version of it. So I've only ever played it on home consoles. So this is the way I'm used to playing it.
Cool. So anything else you want to add for the show?
No, I think that's it. So what about you, sir? If you were gonna be buying another cabinet for your man cave, is this something you consider?
So we've kind of established before you're a bigger fighting game guy than I am.
Hmm.
I do, if I was going to do a fighting game, Mortal Kombat is the fighting game I would do, and this particular cabinet would be the way I would go. I still am starting to continue to kind of look at that. At Games Mini, rotating screen, dedicated pinball thing, that might be an interesting way to go. Plus, there have been a couple other products that have come out that have looked kind of interesting as well. So I'm probably holding off on this one. Uh, and if I was going to go 4-player, I almost wonder if Turtles would be a better way to go than Mortal Kombat. But
You also have Simpsons there, which comes with the Simpsons bowling.
yeah, which would actually be very cool. So those would probably be ahead of it for me, and it's just mostly nothing wrong with it. But I can play a pretty good round of Mortal Kombat, multiple versions through coin ops on the At Games Legend, and I'm good. So I'll probably sit tight.
Makes sense.